Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. For those that have served, thank you. For those that didn't serve but continue to support those that serve, thank you. Let's give one another a round of applause. To the Helcher family, thank you. What your husband and what your father did was about courage, selfless service, and sacrifice. 26 years I served. I stand between you and the names of the fallen. Since 1977, 4,500 firefighters have paid the ultimate sacrifice. Over 21,000 law enforcement officers have paid the ultimate sacrifice. 1.8 million servicemen and women in the Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, and Coast Guard have paid the ultimate sacrifice. On your wall is a name. Alex French IV. My 8th grade son goes to school with Alex's son and daughter, Alex V and Alexis. They're all in the 8th grade. That's a name that some of you can probably say, you know what, I knew Alex. Courage, selfless service, and sacrifice. As Glenn mentioned, I had the opportunity to stand up an infantry battalion. I trained it, I manned it, I equipped it, and then I deployed it to Baghdad, Iraq, on the 5th of February, 2007, just 10 years ago. My battalion was one of the most bloodied battalions during the surge, where we were sent there to put all the pieces back together again, because Iraq was literally in a sectarian war where the Shiites and the Shia were killing one another every single day for no darn good reason. Over the course of our 15 months there, I awarded 77 Purple Hearts. But of those 77 Purple Hearts, 14 of my soldiers paid the ultimate sacrifice. They didn't give their lives to our nation. Their lives were taken from them. Now, when I walked into country, I was naive. I had served in the Ranger Regiment. I had served in combat for up to 3 years at that point already. And I knew the way I trained my unit, there was no way any enemy was going to kill one of my soldiers. I knew we'd get beat up, but I didn't think I'd lose a man. But I was naive. The enemy always gets a vote, as many of you know. The unit that we were adjacent to, the 1-8 Cav Mustangs, they were getting beaten up daily. And I attributed that due to a lack of discipline, and that my battalion was blessed. But on the night of 6 April 2007, about 0100 in the morning, I had gone to bed, but just prior to falling asleep, I felt a huge explosion. It was probably about 1.5 miles from where I rested that night. But I was comforted knowing there's no way that was one of my soldiers. About 5 minutes later, there was a knock on my door, and it was my battalion executive officer, Brent Cummings. I opened up the door, and Brent goes, "Sir, we've got an issue. We need you down in our tactical operations center. I said, Brent, what's going on? He goes, sir, one of our vehicles was hit. I'm like, was anybody hurt? He goes, you need to come down, sir. On that night, I lost my very first soldier, a kid from the Hawaiian Islands, Jay Kajimat. It was surreal to me. How could that have happened? And oh, by the way, it was Good Friday. It was ironic. So I stood in front of my battalion as I prepared what I was going to say. What do you say to a group of soldiers that you had promised we'd all get home together? And then it kind of dawned on me. I had a boss in a previous assignment that said, Ralph, the bullet has been fired at each of us. It's but only a matter of time of when it's going to hit. And when I told that to my battalion during my first of 9 memorials that I would have, some people thought I was crazy. But a majority of my soldiers recognized that it's up to the good Lord when it's time to go home. So it's best to just fight your butts off to the best of your ability and let God take care of the rest. That was 6 April. On 6 June, D-Day of 2007, PFC Sean Gatos, a company clerk, woke up that morning thinking he was just going to do company clerk things. And then somebody got sick on the patrol that was going to go out. So the squad leader walks into the company operations center and goes, hey, Sean, you want to go on patrol? And Sean's like, really? I can go? Absolutely. You're qualified on the 50 cal, right? He goes, oh, yes, Sergeant. Very well. Get up in the truck 1. Within 45 minutes from that time, Sean was dead. The enemy got to vote. Courage, selfless service, and sacrifice. Sean didn't even think about it. He just did it. On 13 June, 25 June, 28 June, I lost Cameron Payne, Andre Craig Jr., and William Crow Jr. For William Crow, it was his 3rd assignment, and he was awarded, at the time of his death, his 3rd Purple Heart. On 17 July, which was our, at that time, most difficult month, over 42 combat actions, either explosively formed penetrators, RPGs, firefights, rockets, mortars, 42 events. On the 17th of July, James Harrelson and his teammates were in the first vehicle driving on Berm Road when his vehicle came across 2 130-millimeter rockets stacked on one another. The enemy detonated those. It took a 4,000-pound vehicle 10 feet up in the air and came crashing down. 4 of them were able to get out of that vehicle. James Harrelson wasn't, because as the vehicle landed, it bent, and the steering wheel trapped him. Courage, selfless service, sacrifice. August was a quiet month for us. We thought we had won. And then came September. Now, some of you may be able to remember the worst day of your life. Mine was 4 September 2007. Trailing behind a patrol from our Charlie company, the Pathfinders, the lead vehicle just exploded. Another EFP that the Jais Almighty had set out for us that day. Joel Murray, David Lane, Randall Shelton all died immediately. Duncan Crookston, we got him out of the vehicle. Joe Mixon, a great big 6'6" country boy from North Florida, got blown out of the left rear seat. Joe lost both of his legs above the knee. We'll talk about Duncan later. That was 4 September. On 22 September, after I just got done briefing General Petraeus, my whole battalion, the task force, was on a high because we just briefed the big boss, and it went very, very well. As we walked out of our headquarters, just across Route Pluto, we heard an explosion, plume of smoke, and we knew something bad had just happened. Joshua Reeves from Watkinsville, Georgia, had just been wounded. Now, Joshua, just 4 hours earlier, saw pictures of his newborn son. So he went on mission, at least having seen his son. We rushed him to our medical facility, and I had the best darn doctors in the free world. They patched him up. They kept him alive. We CAS-evac'd him. And then I went to dinner. And then my Command Sergeant Major, Michael McCoy, came and said, while I was eating, "Sir, we lost Joshua." On 29 September, literally 7 days, almost to the very minute, James Doster, platoon sergeant, lead vehicle, explosively formed penetrator, the same exact injuries. It was like Groundhog Day. We patched him up. We got him on the CAS-evac. I went to dinner. In came my Command Sergeant Major. And again, I learned that this time James passed away. Courage, selfless service, sacrifice. Now, what I'm saying, a lot of you out here today have been there, done that, lived it. And I thank you for that. Because we truly are a family. And we will continue to take care of one another. In January, after my entire task force had gone on their 2-week vacation out of country, environmental leave is what we called it, I had the opportunity to go to BAMC down in San Antonio and see my good man, Duncan Crookston, who, if you recall, on 4 September, he was one of the wounded. I went into the burn center, and Duncan, what was left of Duncan, he had lost both of his legs, his right arm, half of his left arm, and burnt over the rest of his body that remained. I went in there. I had to get in scrubs. It was a highly, no germs allowed because it would kill him because he had no immune system. I walked in on day one because this was a 2-day event. And Duncan had no clue who I was because he was so much on morphine to kill the pain. So I had asked the doctor, Doc, is there any way you could, pull back a little bit on the drug so he'll know who I am tomorrow? He goes, absolutely, sir, we'll do it for you. So the next day I went back and I got my scrubs again and I walked up to Duncan. I said, Duncan, are you awake? Because Duncan didn't have eyelids, so he couldn't shut his eyes. I said, Duncan, this is Ranger 6, Lieutenant Colonel Kauzlarich at that time. I said, I'm here to present to you your combat infantryman's badge, your Purple Heart, and to let you know that your sole mission in life right now is to get better. Now, to the right of the bed was his mother, who had been there from day one. And to the left of his bed was his 17-year-old wife, who had been with him since day one of arrival there at Bampsey. I looked down at Duncan, and a tear fell from Duncan's eye. I knew he heard me. I flew home from San Antonio, got back to Baghdad on the 22nd of January. On the 25th of January, I received an email. Duncan had passed away. That's number 12. I told my boys, guys, we're going to get home together. That was 12. But there'd been no fighting since September. So we thought we were doing okay. We had put our neighborhoods back together again. On 24 March, the Prime Minister of Iraq decided to launch a horrendous attack on Basra, which is the second largest city in Iraq, of which the Jaish al-Mahdi, who was led by Muqtada al-Sadr, they owned Basra. And Maliki goes, you know what? We're taking back Basra. So as that fight was going on down south, Muki told the commander who was in my neighborhoods, there is no way we're going to lose Basra, but you have got to start something in Baghdad now. So they'll get out of Basra and try to save Baghdad. Now, I told you in July we had 42 enemy contacts. From the 24th of March to the 31st of March, that 7-day period, we had over 92 enemy engagements. It was high-intensity conflict. We were at war again. My battalion was supposed to go home on the 31st of March. We were done. And they decided to hit us on our last week. On the 29th of March, one of my patrols who had been fighting all day was heading back to its combat outpost Kajimat. It was hit by an explosively formed penetrator again. With 2 days left in country, Patrick Miller and Darrell Bennett paid the ultimate sacrifice. For many of you, I'm preaching to the choir. Thank you for what you've done. Courage, selfless service, and sacrifice is what we in the military, our law enforcement, our firefighters do each and every day. But we can't do what we do without those of you who support us each and every day. What you do here, what you did here today, thank you. May God bless Gwinnett County. May God bless Georgia. May God bless America and each and every one of you. Duty first.